Is dress really important in diplomacy or when representing the country? I'm sure by now you would have watched the horrendous press conference between President Zelensky and President Trump. One reporter asked President Zelensky whether he owned a suit, whether he was intentionally disrespecting the host by not wearing one when he came for a meeting in the White House. But anyway, let's put all that aside. The point that I want to make here, by raising that question, the entire event became somewhat trivialized from an issue of grave importance of Ukraine fighting for its survival to dressing. This is what we don't want to see happening when we are representing the country. As a young diplomat, we were always told that, one should have at least one good tailored suit. And therefore, many of us, we used to have at least a suit and a couple of ties and some clean shirts hanging in the office all the time, because we could never tell when a visitor might just drop in or we might be just called in to sit in during a conversation between the minister and some foreign dignitary. The reason why dressing was very important is that we should not become the object of the conversation. But today I am somewhat disappointed to see in some instances, ministers, senior officials, appearing without ties in foreign meetings. I hesitated for a long time before making this video, but I have come to the conclusion that this is not a trivial thing at all. There are many reasons, of course, when we study protocol, etc., the history of diplomacy and all that. We know many reasons why dress is important. And these are all designed to make sure that one is able to present his or her country's interest in the best possible light. Well, in today's context, for men, dressing in suits is a norm. Take a look. Look at the Japanese diplomats, for example, or the Japanese leaders, Chinese leaders and officials today. They're all dressed impeccably in Western suits as well. There are many reasons why dressing is important. The first impression that you give when you appear in a foreign setting is often crucial to the outcome of whatever discussions or negotiations or talks that one sets out to do. Because by projecting yourself as a professional, you probably would have won perhaps 30-40% of the battle. Equally important, like keeping time. We do not turn up late for meetings. We also need to be able to, handle a knife and a fork and a spoon at dinners, for example. How to conduct yourself in cocktail receptions. All these are important because whether we like it or not, we are being observed, and perceptions matters when it comes to outcomes of discussions. I'm not saying that the subject matter is not important. It is very important. But if it's conveyed by someone who's sloppily dressed, not punctual, etc., surely, you're going to have a hard time convincing your host. Dressing properly also symbolizes authority and status. It tells the host or the other side that they're dealing with people who are serious and people who know what they really want. Of course, later on, in the course of conversation and discussion, other details or, things may emerge which may change your mind. But at least the first impression, is very important because, I think from my experience, at least 40 to 50% of the battle is won just by, showing authority by dressing up properly. Next is respect to the host. As diplomats, ambassadors, we are sometimes, when we visit the countries where we are representing, we have to inspect guards of honor. When I was ambassador in Beirut, I had to inspect our peacekeeping troops down in the south in the presence of all the UNIFIL troops, and they would also put up a guard of honor in my honor. It is highly important that you dress up properly because it is a sign of respect to the host. You cannot dress up shabbily or in some type of clothing which doesn't suit the occasion. Similarly, when when delegations go overseas. In some countries, they may put up, a guard of honor to receive the head of delegation, and it's important, to dress up properly. Yes, it may be inconvenient. You may be arriving at odd times in the day or night time, etc. But making that small effort is highly important because it's a sign of respect to the host. We saw at the White House, President Trump is someone who's clearly, pays attention to the way his guests dress up. So, and he and his team seem to perceive this ill-dressed, guest as a sign of disrespect. So this is something that can be taken lightly. And then, of course, there is this thing called visual messaging. Unless you are Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa or perhaps some like the late Steve Jobs, you really have no business turning up in other than a proper dress. These individuals that I mentioned just now, they are considered to be hyper iconic individuals. They are well known around the world. They can dress up as they are, seen in the pictures. But even them, if you were to observe very carefully, when they were much younger, they all dressed according to the conventional dress of their times. Look at our own leaders in Malaysia, for example, from the days of Tunku Abdul Rahman, Tun Abdul Razak, all the way down to Dr. Mahathir, etc. Everyone dressed impeccably, So at the end of the day, what is important is that the message must be about the country that you're representing. That should be the focus. It should not be you who should be at the center of the discussion. I can tell you for sure what will happen after you have left is that the host or his officials would gather around and they would have a small powwow around themselves. They would try to sort of size up how this delegation was and what they were up to, etc. And you would be not surprised to know that in many instances, the small things like timeliness, dress code plays a big role in how they perceive and judge the delegations. Since I started with President Volodymyr Zelensky, I must say that he wasn't wrong because he was signaling that he is representing a country at war. He is dressed in solidarity with the soldiers on the front who are dying for their country. So his dressing was entirely appropriate for the occasion. Plus, he had dressed that way before, even when he met President Trump for the first time. So that was not something surprising to see how he was dressed. But what I think was unfortunate was the way he was treated. At the end of the day, I think, Zelensky came out fine. If anything, the American diplomacy is the one that suffered on that day. We are really living in very uncertain times. There is increasingly greater pressure on ministers, officials, diplomats to perform. We are sending them at great cost to attend meetings and conferences and investment promotions, etc. around the world. The least they can do is dress up properly so that the mission that they were sent to achieve would at least meet with some success and not flounder around things like dress codes and matters of that kind. So what do you think? If you like this video, please hit the like and share and subscribe button and press the bell icon as well.